WarsawJS.
I guess that in the field of technology and with the fragility, as you have already, the inclusivity, diversity, and equity topic is a topic which you already known a bit. I would like to show you some examples and show why it's important and why it's good to be inclusive and also fragile and warm, welcoming for other people. And I was thinking about some introduction which should be funny, but after that I thought that maybe it's not a good idea to show my sense of humor because it could be a silence. So, yes. So I thought that, well, everything what is common for us, it's kind of fairy tale and fables with the moral summary, and that's why I want to tell you something about our brave adventurers. So once upon a time, in a land of bits and bytes, there was a group of friends who loved to create games. So thank you for mentioning about games. They were all different, with unique ideas and ways of working, and they shared a passion for creating fun and exciting adventures. One day, they came across a special book that showed them how to work together better. It taught them to value the importance of being kind and respectful to each other, to listen and share their ideas. I guess that some of you, or maybe all of you, which are using the agile conduct and rules and method, knows this book and some manifesto. So this book taught them to focus on creating a game that worked well instead of spending too much time writing about it. They learned also that it was important to work with others and make the game as fun as possible. So as I mentioned before, and the group of adventurers is creating the approach and working methods in a form of manifesto. So it's some principles which we can summarize with short sentences like individuals and interactions are over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, and customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Responding to change over following a plan. So that's a method which you know is an agile process, not only developing software, but also just working together, also in a field of NGO area or just in organizations. So if we have a method, it will be good to stick to some framework, some values and some principles which can be kind of universal, kind of well understandable for different people in a global network or or with different backgrounds and from different perspectives. So I prepared for you the framework which is based of the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the perspective which it will be most important for me, it's the inclusion part. So what is the inclusive language? So it's a language which doesn't exclude anyone based on characteristics such as gender, physical or mental disability, or cultural background. And on next slide, there's some trigger warning because it will be some diagram which is like that, my favorite shapes. And so first, diversity, which means that multiple identities are represented. And next is equity. It means that there's fair treatment, access, and redistribution of power. And next part, it's inclusion. And inclusion means that thoughts, ideas, and perspective matters equally. And all of those powerful values and principles gives us the belonging, and belonging in the perspective of a team work or a group collective. So about people and the power, what they create each other, but in the perspective of developing some software or another digital tool, but not only digital, also analog, like places which are accessible, and tools which they are just, too small to be in other category. So how we implement those principles and values. Of course, the whole universum of this framework and perspective, it's really, really big, and it depends of country. It depends mainly of language which we use. I'm not native English speaker person, so I'm more into Polish perspective and some nuances. So if we think that English forms our main construct, we need to add also our native languages, and we need to remember that in international team, each of person has their own connotation and their own contexts. So we can of course apply the inclusion as a body language and a visual language, but will stick to the words and the sentences and what is behind them. So some summary, because it's good to remember about the beginning principles. So it will be, I think it's a good color. So language is a living and breathing thing, and the words we use every day also have a lot of power to creating the reality. And adjusting the words we use is essential and shows just the respect for people from communities coming from different backgrounds. It's good to remember that freedom of expression does not mean freedom from consequences or judgment. And it's good to just ask people how they want to be identified. We just sometimes don't know and that's okay. So if it's not written, like in pronouns, she, her, or other ones, it's good to ask. And the point from what I want to start other parts of this inclusivity is that personhood must come first when talking about a certain group or identity, and of course respect and self-identification, and to give everyone the opportunity to identify themselves. So, okay. I will show you different perspectives like gender bias, ableist bias, and other examples with phrases, words, do's and don'ts. So the person-first perspective is that the balance between acknowledging while not limiting an individual to the particulars of their identity, and it's so-called being person-first oriented. Person first, not the identity. It's good to try see things from different perspectives. So not only some threat describes me, but the whole context of the person. It's good to be just empathetic and understand other people's struggles. So gender neutral, that's the starting point, which it's good to support. If it's not necessary, what gender is given in the context, of course, in the context of technology. I mean here, for example, technical writing, some internal wiki, or just documentation. It's good to just pass by and not include and not underline the gender. So when you want to really show that it doesn't matter if it's a woman, man, boy, girl, you can just indicate that the person in the red shirt, so describe the situation, the context, without giving the value or without judging it. Instead of ladies and gentlemen or boys and girls, you can use a group word, group description, so friends, colleagues, pupils, or different. It's also important that if it's not necessary to refer for such a personal threat, a personal unique gender or connected to our look, it's good to just say that that's not necessary, and maybe not to say phrases like she's our black engineer or she's our female engineer if it's not necessary to underline the context and the person. What are some gender bias? Usually, but not only, they are connected with words and what is the etymology of a word, but also with the culture and historic contexts. So male-based generics erase women linguistically, but also when we avoid using male-centered words when referring to positions or roles that can be held by people of any gender, we are mindful, and we are mindful that the language and how we use it, it can exclude or perpetuate stereotypes. And it's also important when we want to be connected to some stereotypes with men. It doesn't matter, the gender. If we are using some phrases like, "Oh, I need some man to fix the printer," it's the same bias and sexism. So just, don't do that. It's good to also change the basic words like fireman to firefighter, but also not policeman, but police officer, and other examples which maybe for now are kind of, that's a modern language which we can hear in movies or in series, but that was something different than when we learned English in school, like it was, 20 years ago. So also saying words spouse or wife, husband, when we don't know what is the status or what is the person, it's not necessary. It's good to say something which is kind of neutral, like a partner, and that's it. So the main opener, hey guys, it sounds really kind of friendly for me personally, but it's referring not to women. So it's good to change the daily words to include and really invite other people to our meeting and our area. Ableist and ableism. What is ableism? So it's a form of stereotyping where people with disabilities are devalued or their potential is perceived to be limited. Often we just don't recognize, or we have no intention to hurt someone or to discriminate or to leave their value. So ableism also refers to discrimination against people who live with the disability of any kind. It's good to just remember about those tiny words which are also referred to mental health, not only the visible physical health. And how to use the language in the really technological perspective. So let's do quick sanity check. So sanity, maybe for based in Poland, it doesn't describes and it doesn't refer really to the mental health, but in the English perspective, it's more clear that it refers to our state of mind and mental health too. So as the yellow mark on margin, it's good to don't trivialize the issues, and I hope that the level of your courage or the level of courage of other people about talking about spectrum of different neurodivergent person, it really increased. I observe it in my own world, but I hope that not only in my bubble, but that the awareness of different neurodivergent situation, it's higher than it was. So When I saw information on Instagram about our meetup, I saw information about some killer topic or some bombastic speakers. I don't remember, but it was really kind of good example that, well, intention of a person who prepared the text weren't bad, but in my private dictionary, killer and bomb, especially when we have a lot of people who escape from war, which is, you know, just across our border, it's maybe not, you know, a good example. And of course, we all do mistakes, which is like a daily basis, but the intention and the fragility to, okay, see those mistakes and try to include the new words or better words. So the software and in general also gaming industry is full of violent-based words. So it's kind of I realized that hanging the process is like, okay, it's related with some suicidal thoughts and actions. So those are some examples, and yeah, it's good to, I don't want to even say them and read them. So it's, you know, just to refer that we have different shoes, and it's good to remember about that. So there's, of course, huge topic about race, privilege, and social context about biases. So that's, you know, just a drop. And I hope that you will, if you are interested in discovering and dive deep into the topic, you will just use some resources which I will give you at the end. So it's good to just avoid socially charged language, and really to feel and see those different words just around us, because we don't know what people are struggling, and it's good to say that, okay, if I didn't realize that something is happening, just, you know, to change your behavior. And well, for whom? For humans, as you know already. And some tips and summary, what to avoid. So text length, idioms, and cultural references which are not visible and they're exclusive for some background limited to a country or even some generation jokes and so on. Screenshots, it means so the inclusivity in a form of visual inclusivity, really to show that some examples of a interface layout, or also the map or instructions how to reach a certain point in the building, they are also important as a language. So yes, I guess that that's, you know, just a tiny introduction for the whole universum. I hope that you will really feel that it's not bad to do mistakes, but to be open for see other needs. Thank you. Okay, so that's the link for Kinopio.
Just a moment. Can I just say wow? I would like to say wow because you probably are aware that I work in this particular field every single day. This is the
That
work
was stressful.
Stressful for whom?
For me to, just do some summary.
And thank you very much for introducing this topic to us all. Speaking from personal experience, I can tell you that every one of us is suffering from some form of trauma. We are all deeply traumatized and then repeatedly, if I may use the word, which I don't like to use, triggered by events and language which are carelessly or mindlessly used in our environment. And for this reason, the idea of being sensitive to that we in fact all are subject and victims of, if you will, various forms of trauma, and to respect this and to have an awareness of it is, I believe, the beginning of at least willingness to understand how important and how powerful language is and the words that come out of your mouth. We cannot control how others may react to whatever we may say. The word cheese might trigger someone, it's possible. What we can do is make the effort to control the words that come out of our mouths. I really want to thank you. We have any questions for Katarzyna? Which way? Okay.
Thank you for your speech. I have maybe a little bit linguistic question. For example, in a language like Polish, how we can use this gender? Yeah, yeah, and let's see it. We have two forms for each case, so it's not a general neutral thing at all. So how it should work in Polish, for example?
I've got. So I really love to use the different construction of the sentence. So use the rzeczownik osoba. And the starting point is that it really needs, the exercise. So, the mental exercise of building sentences with this different construction. So osoby słuchające, osoby oglądające, with this change, you can avoid using gender. And even non-binary person, or identifying with other genders, they are included. And osoba as a human being, or some, deep activists, they use osoba psia, or osoba kocia, or osoba zwierzęca, like really, the animal being, that to underline that we are all animals. Like,
so could that work with the person who is a doctor? So you don't have to use those two different, because in professions I know this can be difficult.
My my beloved topic about feminitives, because that was the question, or you?
It was a question about in general how
Okay.
how can it be like gender neutral
Mm-hmm.
if we have oni, one, if we have different forms, for example, for past tense, for female version and male version.
Okay.
So in
yeah.
English we can speak about a person and don't know he or
Mm-hmm.
she until we say he or
Using
she.
them. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
in Polish, no. From the word, from first thing, we know it.
Usually it is possible to change the construction to use osoba. Sometimes it's kind of for the first time it doesn't sound like familiar, but after 3 months it's like that. It really sticks into how we describe reality, how we include, and also when when I repeat that in my team or in a new circle of friends, there are sometimes like, oh, okay, like it sounds a bit weird or new, but yeah, after a few months, it's like they repeat after me, even without realizing that they use inclusive narration, and it's so cool.
That is cool.
Yes.
Next question.
I would like actually to ask a question, because on one hand, I resonate with what you say. On the other hand, I have a kind of red light that's
Exactly, that was
because
something
I'm
that was-
wondering where is the boundary between, you know, this willingness to heal the language and heal like the repercussion of that of how we speak has on certain people, and a kind of craziness of willing to be, you know, excessively politically correct, excessively like gender correct, and so on and so forth. Because, you know, from my personal experience, I have experienced this type of thing. For example, in French, there is an expression like "be drunk like a Pole," right? Which means they just say that when they say that somebody is very drunk, for example, and I could feel that because I was a Pole. On the other hand, I see those feminatives which I don't resonate with, like, I don't know, ministra, psycholożka, and all those lożkas.
Okay.
It doesn't like resonate with me, for example. And I'm just wondering, where is this boundary of, you know, on one hand wanting to heal the language, and the other hand going to a direction that will even bias us more into a kind of crazy politically correctness.
Crazy political correctness. No, that's like, okay, so 3 things. First, I don't want to heal language. I'm sorry, I'm not able to do that, and I hope that you have no will to heal language. Language is a vivid structure. We build the language, and it's all transforms to refer to reality. And it will be like never-ending story. So, not healing. I'm not a doctor, and I just want to really refer to person. But not bad. I want to tell you that I guess that I feel what you struggle with. So it's like this, as you mentioned, that it's a kind of uncomfortable and crazy. So it's, you know, the tension between, okay, to be correct and to include. I will remove the politics because it's about human. But also, that is
Tradition, right?
tradition. Yes, I will lead to the tradition, but that you want to connect to the person and use the proper language, which I assume that you use because of pronouns, because of feminitives, and so on. But as I heard, at the same time, it's not easy, and that it refers some internal forces and kind of it gives the state of being tired because it's new, and maybe the tradition, it's something that you already know, you know the rules, and why to change something? So I have no answers like that is the way we should do, and I don't want to recommend you that. But if we are thinking about tradition, first of all, rules of Polish language, we need to use feminitives to refer to a woman if we want to use a clean language, like a clean code. We can write some code which is complicated, but it works. But it's not, with the rules of writing a clean code. Yeah, and it's not only about the way how they sound, because maybe you don't know, but in 50s and in 60s, the government in the propaganda strategy, they removed feminitives to invite women to join to workforce. So they used men and men nouns to show that it's a prestigious way. They are equal to men. It was kind of, not necessary, but it was necessary for them to build some kind of new reality of female workforce. So about tradition in 1920, psycholożka, śpieszka, szpiegini, that was without any political correctness bias. So it's hard sometimes to refer that, okay, psycholożka, yeah, it really sounds weird. But when we will, every day see this noun, which is written in press, in web, in in television, after 1 year we'll just not feel this tension between that something sounds not good and the proper use of language. I'm not sure if I met your expectations.
We could talk about this particular topic
Okay, yeah.
forever, and I think if I may just try to interject here a little bit, the idea that there would be a line beyond which we would not be willing to go in order to feel well, in order for people to be well, to be considerate to others, I think is questionable. How far am I willing to go in order to be considerate to others? I don't have a line, as far as I can, yeah? So in other words, as far as that is that I'm able to, I'm willing to go. Another thing to consider is that we know the history of language, that language itself has been used and constructed with a certain intent of creating a hierarchy. And there is violence traditionally in most of the languages that we use in the world. So if we can acknowledge that the language was constructed to be used as a tool and also as a weapon, and we understand that, then we can also understand why it may be to our benefit to be more mindful that politics has no place in terms of human health and our well-being. It's an artificial construct in the same way that language has been constructed. What matters, as Katarzyna mentioned, are the people, the heart, the flesh and blood, the food, the things that sustain our lives. Even though we're building this whole artificial structure, this scaffolding, which is also hopefully intended to help and heal and nourish and make life easier and more pleasurable for people. Again, regarding your question, is there, I don't regard, okay, also it's important to remember that a voice is more than just words. Your tone, that language is power. Words have power. They're not simply what is printed on the page, that we're exchanging energy here, which very often goes undetected as well. So once I think we make the effort to try to understand what communication is, what it really means, I think we can begin to understand that maybe this idea of a line being drawn in the sand might have something to do with some of our indoctrination. That we're indoctrinated to think that there's got to be a limit, that there should be some sort of a line. That would be my reaction. And I didn't mean to, let's say, commandeer your stage. However, yeah, for me, I don't have a line. Here, we have another question.
Recently, I heard news that in some states in the United States, they just banned all of those inclusive lessons in school, etc. And they always ask school to make people to have like their own opinion. What do you think about this?
When I couldn't sleep before this Wednesday, I was thinking about that someone will ask me about situation in US, and maybe not only in US, but also with which is not clearly connected to language or technology or just strictly to my topic. So I have no data in my mind which can be really, which I can give you like, okay, based on this and that, and my opinion is like that, or some experts say that, this and that. So I would like to respond for your question, but I don't think that I'm able to give you, the data. So I'm sorry.
Next question.
Yes, actually, it's not a question. It's more of a comment or. Sorry.
Go on, go on.
If I may, or like maybe a personal impression, because this is actually my first meetup, my first WarsawJS Meetup, and I must admit that I am quite surprised, positively surprised that around, or actually a half of the presentations and the time dedicated for discussion is about social and environmental aspects. So for me, this is a proof that the IT sector is really meeting the contemporary needs of the contemporary world. And this is truly inspiring for me. And thank you very much for providing such program. And I am really waiting. I will be waiting for more, and I'm looking forward for the next meetup in May. Thank you.
Whoa. Talk about comments. Thank you so much. This is a testament to, and specifically, no slight to anyone else. However, this topic, this is necessary now. We're all facing a situation in which the tension is so high, and whether we admit it or not, this becomes very, very important, and it's so timely and so well done. And I want to thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you. When there's a tension, we need to stick together.
Well, we need to try to at least make an effort, at least make an effort to understand and be mindful. We have time for one more. Anyone have another, comment or question? Grzegorz.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And I will try to not make the comment because Barry don't like it. Do you think that the more important thing is to go by the rules like you presented, or just ask the person how he and so they and so on want to be named?
Named. Okay. So the first rule is that I use the pronouns when I know the pronouns, which use the person. But maybe in the broad context, it's good to know the rules, like the basic of diverse perspective and the language. And I was smiling at the beginning because when you said, "What do you think about the rules? It's good to follow the rules." So my internal voice said, "Like, break the rules," and like that was the the thing, but still, it's good to not to be ignorant, and that's when we are curious, when we are open and ready for the new, with also the background of history, of the social cultural perspective. It's like that's a good mix, and it's good to balance all those elements. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Katarzyna.
Thank you.
My respect, and thanks to you.